What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka Allfires. Now, although we're on the back end of what's been one Marvel movie in Deadpool and Wolverine for over a year, by the time we get to next year, it's going to be almost every other month in February, May, and July when they release the Fantastic Four on July 25th. Now, some of you may have already seen this and taken note that, in fact, Superman from James Gunn's DC is going to release just a week later. And I hadn't made this video yet, but I think that's a super dangerous game on Marvel's part. You never really want to go first. I'll explain that during this video. But that's why I was not surprised at all when a rumor circulated this weekend that Marvel Studios might actually look to move the Fantastic Four a week later to go head to head with James Gunn's Superman at the box office, which would be a terrible idea. Even though we're going to leave this in rumor mill territory as it's not corroborated by any of the trusted industry insiders or any of the editorials that we give a lot more reverence to, still, it's worth examining why in the world Marvel Studios would want to do that in the first place, and why even if they leave everything exactly how it is, Marvel may be up for an overall losing proposition and terrible conditions to release the Fantastic Four in. We're breaking it all down, but first, this episode is brought to you by porkbun.com, named the #1 domain registrar by USA Today in both 2023 and 2024. Porkbun.com is offering an incredible deal on .fyi domain names to help you connect with your online audience. The .fyi extension is perfect for educators, bloggers, and businesses looking to share information and establish themselves as a trusted source. With a .fyi domain, you can instantly communicate your content's value, stand out in a crowded online space, and provide a versatile platform for sharing industry knowledge and insights. Elevate your credibility and trustworthiness with a .fyi. Even better, every domain that comes from porkbun.com comes with features like Whois privacy, SSL certificates, web and email hosting trials, and more. After all, why pay for things that should be free? With a simple user interface, you can manage everything about your domain from one place. Plus, it all comes backed by personalized 5-star support 365 days a year. So go ahead and click the link down in the description, go over to porkbun.com and get your .fyi domain for less than $2 for the first year at Porkbun for a limited time. Now, for the record, guys, I actually started doing this video from scratch. It's Monday. I'll probably drop this video tomorrow, but I did this video about 2 months ago. I just never finished it. That's before the rumor that circulated over the weekend actually added a new dynamic to it, but there's a ton to talk about here anyway. Like I said during the prologue, I think Marvel may be in a lose-lose position. Okay, so if everything stays exactly the same, forget the rumor that they may move it. Marvel's dropping the Fantastic Four on July 25th. Then a week later, James Gunn's dropping DC's first movie in Superman on August 11th. Now, a classical line of thinking may be it's better to get to the box office first. As we often talk about at the channel, there are people who are super into the MCU and DC, but won't go see every superhero movie in the theaters because they simply don't go to the theaters that often. And I often use my twin brother as an example, who did go see Deadpool and Wolverine in the theater, but I'm not sure saw a Marvel movie at all last year, or if he's even watched the Marvels or Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, or Guardians 3 yet. He works full-time. People have families. People have interests outside of the MCU. It's just not a priority to get to theaters, unlike maybe a lot of you watching this channel and myself, who are going to go see these things on opening days and then probably multiple times over the opening weekend. So for all of those people who would go see Superman if it came first, but are just going to go that weekend for Fantastic Four and then maybe skip Superman again because they just went to the theater, it seems like getting to the box office first would be a great move by Marvel. But there are a lot of comic book fans like you and I who are going to go see both of these movies regardless of when they release next year. And so for the casual fan, yes, maybe they're going to pick up a couple of stragglers that DC's Superman won't get, but that'll be made up for in the you and I's of the world who go multiple times over the opening weekend. Now, another important thing to note is that this is not Barbenheimer all over again, because these are not two dichotomous movies, or really the antithesis of each other as far as what they offer in a cinema experience. These two movies are appealing to the exact same overlap of fans. So the intersectionality of the two films means that they won't be able to breathe as much as Barbie and Oppenheimer were able to coexist at the same time. Not to mention that their marketing is going to be running concurrently. You're going to be seeing ads for Superman and the Fantastic Four ramping at the same time. Now let's for a second assume that it's all the best case scenario for Marvel, that it was just a rumor over the weekend, they don't try to go head to head with Superman so they get to the box office first, and even though we're getting two huge marketing campaigns for classic superheroes like the Fantastic Four and Superman, let's pretend for a second that they don't wear the shine off of each other, they're at full efficacy. Let's also pretend that all the metrics are the same. When they drop the trailers, they hit the same numbers, and the hype, and you guys know exactly what I mean by that, seems to be the same online for both films. Deadpool and Wolverine proved that if a movie is good, that it can go and have legs and go weekend after weekend at the box office and try to approach that global 1 billion mark that Marvel really wants all of its mega blockbusters, especially the Fantastic Four, to hit. But now, a week after the opening weekend for Fantastic Four, and no matter how good it is, James Gunn is dropping Superman. And the thing that I would point out about this is that I would say James Gunn's personal writing record with the projects that he has done is way higher than just Marvel Studios releasing films and what they have done, considering the consistent voice that is James Gunn has been able to write masterpieces out of IP like Peacemaker that no one expected. And while I do understand that the last couple of sentences were strongly my opinion about James Gunn as a writer, I say it's precisely that Marvel may be in trouble. Not that Matt Shakman isn't awesome and didn't do a great job with WandaVision, but Fantastic Four absolutely is going to have to be 100% a grand slam out of the park, because there's a really good chance that James Gunn's going to do that with Superman. And if Fantastic Four comes out and is okay, or is an 8 out of 10, or is this heady odyssey that is just so deep and so rich, and then James Gunn a week later drops Superman, which, if you pay attention to James Gunn's writing, you know exactly the mix of tone that he's going to provide in that film. I just think there's a higher chance than not that Superman is going to squash the legs that Fantastic Four would have had in continuing weekends at the box office, say if Superman wasn't there. And of course, that may leave Marvel in a position where they have to go first, because going to head-to-head may be a disaster. But as some people pointed out as they were sending me this rumor over the weekend, it may be their only chance to try to quell the box office of Superman. As we said, there are people who are going to go to the theater once a year. And if you're going in Fantastic Four, the next Marvel movie, and James Gunn's Superman are there on the same weekend, there are some casual fans who are not going to see both movies. So maybe this rumor arose from someone sort of looking at the strategy that Marvel may have. I simply think that their best plan would be to move Fantastic Four later in the year, because obviously Blade isn't there anymore. And if you're asking why they don't just do that, because it's a big deal, because a lot of the industry actually plans their releases around what's going on with Marvel and the bigger movies. So if they go ahead and move their film, it just becomes a domino effect. Now, that doesn't mean Marvel doesn't move movies. If you know anything from watching my channel, Marvel loves to move their movies. That's what they do. That's the whole Marvel thing is, hey, we're moving the release date. And I say that half jokingly, but you almost sort of expect it, especially since there's a huge gap there. And then next year, because Blade isn't on the schedule anymore. Look, I'm simply saying that best case scenario, both of these movies slap, but Superman's going to sort of eat into what the box office for Fantastic Four might have been. And you easily could say the converse, that Fantastic Four might actually do that to James Gunn's Superman. There's no promise that Superman's going to be a great movie, and if Fantastic Four comes out as an absolute banger, and then DC's Superman isn't that great, it actually might work in Marvel's favor. But man, the track records here, and when put on the line, just make it feel like even if Marvel does everything right, that it's going to be really, really hard for them to go up against Superman. And then, if the conditions are less than, if the Fantastic Four isn't the absolute masterpiece that we hope that it is, then it's really, really going to be, well, clobbering time for Superman. I actually can't believe I wrote that down, but I said it. I said it reluctantly, but I said it. Now, I'm going to stop short of saying this. I'm just going to ask you guys in the comments, let me know, who is more popular, Superman or the Fantastic Four? There are a lot of metrics you could go on for this, and I think that I know the answer, but I would prefer to see what y'all say instead of me staking a claim, although I think I already know where this is going to go. Who's more popular, Superman or Fantastic Four? Alright guys, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments. We are still giving away the PS5s. Yes, we're going to do a watch party for Agatha. Y'all know I'm the hype man. You know I love everything, even when it's bad. I'm like, yeah, we'll just look at it as extra, you know, not everything has to be a banger, but man, I am so worried I'm going to hate this show. And I know some of you are going to get hung up on some of the marketing that went out today, and you guys know I don't give a shit about any of that, but I've heard it's a musical. I'm really not a huge fan of musicals. And then some people are saying it's on the level of Loki, and I'm like, hey now, let's not go and get ahead of ourselves. You know, Loki Season 2 is sacred ground. It's like one of the best things Marvel has done, which gives me hope for future of Marvel television. But just remember, this is an artifact of the old regime, so question mark. You guys let me know all your thoughts. As always, I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.